This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome aboard the Triple Option here on a shortened week. Monday and Tuesday, you'll see us. The rest of the days, you won't.
Oh.
Until Saturday with the pregame show, and we'll be back for that. But certainly happy to be here on, Garrett, what I can only really describe as another just insane bonkos banana week in college football. And we have run up against a hypocrisy situation.
No, not in college football.
Well, look, the SEC has teams that can beat each other and are all evenly matched, and
That's new.
that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
That's great. That means the SEC has gotten better, correct? That's what that's supposed to mean, right? That's the narrative.
Supposedly.
That's the narrative, correct?
Right, yes.
The Big 12 has been this way for 5 years now, but that's a bad thing in this part of the country. Like, the further west you get,
Right.
the worse it is. But in the East, it's fine. I mean, whatever these conferences are now. But, like, you know, over here, if the conference office is in Dallas, bad. If the conference office is in Atlanta, good. So I'm very curious to see how this comes to a head. And I've seen a lot of projections. And, you know, you'll hear from Peyton Soysher later in the show with his video this week, but his projected rankings have Alabama at 12.
That's where they should be, like, or if not further back, honestly.
Okay, why is Arizona State then at 16? They have a better record. They have a chance to win. Like, they have a chance to. Now, this is all
Because
getting
they
shaken
started
up.
so much. They started outside of the rankings and have been trying to claw their way in. And really, they didn't make it inside the top 25, but like a couple of weeks back.
Yeah.
So that's probably plays into it. But if you're just going pound for what you're seeing, yeah, I mean, Arizona State should be at closer than that to Alabama.
Yeah. No, I look, and this is where the conflict comes in. Now, this week it ultimately doesn't matter because we're going to see rivalry week. We'll see some things happen. A&M and Texas could really shake things up because if A&M, who already dropped to 20th in the AP poll, Peyton's got them projected at 21st. If they go and beat Texas, and that's going to really wreck a lot of things.
Yep.
If Vanderbilt pulls off another big upset, you know that's going to really change some things. For some reason, it's illegal for Mizzou to fall out of the rankings at all.
That is baffling. Like, they've just floated in the high 20s this whole time, and they have not made any – they haven't got any quality wins to show. Like, there's nothing there.
Well, I mean, and again, like, Texas doesn't have any quality wins.
No.
Texas has beaten everybody they played but Georgia.
Well, like, Mizzou's just keeping people afloat by sitting there.
Yeah. It's very – like, they're one of A&M's quality wins.
Yeah.
Right? After A&M – got upset by Auburn, and that was a really exciting game, I guess. I don't know. Like, are there A&M fans in the chat right now? I know how you guys feel because let's face it, for all intents and purposes, I am one of you.
Yeah, you're one of them.
The way I describe it to people is Texas A&M is my high school sweetheart. You know, always kind of carry a bit of a torch for them. But Florida State's my wife.
Right.
When it comes down to it, I'm sorry, you know, girl next door.
Had to see other people.
My ride or die is here, you know. So, grew up an A&M fan because of my family, my father, and all that. And I could just hear him, like, in my head. The other night, like, honestly, like, if there was like a thunderclap over like anywhere, like Auburn, Alabama, or College Station, Texas, it was probably whatever my dad like threw down.
Something. Yeah.
Like, you know, I always have this, and I love this. I'm trying to work it out as a bit, but like my dad was so friendly and like jovial kind of a dude. Like I just imagine like getting to heaven. He's like, hey man, you got to hurry. We got a lot to do today. We're playing golf with Einstein. He loves it. Got a hell of a 3-wood he plays, you know. But like I just imagine him like sitting around with like George Washington and what Joan of Arc and be like, hey, they got really into the Aggies, man. And just like having a big old time. But like I could feel it the other night of like the. He used to say when they would fall behind, what else is on? And then he would leave the room and walk around for a while.
I think that's a lot of A&M fans.
Yeah. So that game, 21-0. Then they almost have this wonderful, they come back and take the lead. Wonderful comeback. It was just Auburn playing with emotion. But then they lose. And they lose. And here's how I can relate. I've been a Red Sox fan for a long time too. Since I was a little kid. Mm-hmm. And this feels what it was like to be a Red Sox fan before 2004. Where, this is and I know they can still get in the SEC title game with a win this week. But everything's in front of you. Like you can wind up with a better record than Texas if you beat them. You can win the SEC title in their first year, which they still could do. But they still have this gigantic like cyst now that they've got that they can't come off,
right?
Because it's that loss to Auburn, and so you have the best defense in the SEC or one of them all year long, one of the best defenses in the country all year long.
And Peyton Thorne
is Aaron Rodgers all of a sudden.
Torched them, man.
God, what is going on?
I don't know. That was my thing. It's like, what did Vegas know? Because the line all week was confusing to everybody. Yeah. You're looking at it like there's no way in hell this can happen. And then all of a sudden, Auburn looks like miraculous, and A&M can't stop anything. Yeah, that was embarrassing on a lot of levels. That was the most Texas A&M thing you could imagine happening there. And I don't think there was any looking past Auburn. That was just you straight up got your ass whooped.
Yeah.
Like that's all that was.
Yeah.
I don't think that the game next week with Texas played into that. That was just a bad night in Auburn, Alabama for A&M.
Yeah, it was. And they've not really ever played like they had one game a couple years ago where they went in there and won. And it was like the other way around where A&M wasn't very good and Auburn was playing well. And then they went in and pulled the rug out from under them. But Paxton makes a great point that A&M, Ole Miss, and Alabama losing, Texas is in. They're in. The most losses that they could possibly have now going into the playoffs would be 2.
Yeah.
Either losing to A&M this week or losing to Georgia again in the title game. Like, that means the most losses they can have is 2. Mm-hmm. And if one of those teams can get in with 3, which one of them at this point looks likely to do,
right? Because
God forbid we put them under the same microscope as everyone else.
Can't do that.
No, I mean, they didn't do that. Like, what would happen? What would happen to the world economy?
It would crash.
What would happen? I mean, like, apparently, like there's a terrorist from Tuscaloosa that has all the nuclear codes to all the countries.
I wouldn't be surprised.
And will launch them if Alabama is out of the playoff. And, last year they were gifted a spot. Mm-hmm. And this year they would be truly gifted a spot if they got in.
There's no way. There's nothing you can say about Alabama. Like, they haven't looked the same all year. Yeah, and I know they beat Georgia or whatever, but at this point, like, I don't even know how much weight can go into that because there's so much – all these teams are the same. There's not, like, one elite team out there. So, like, all we're talking about when they beat up on each other is just which brand or logo beat on the other one. It's not about the product on the field because they don't have the best teams over there right now. And I don't know how it's going to shake out. I don't see a way that – I don't think they deserve more than 3 teams in the playoff. And I know they're going to try to push for 4, but with what Alabama's done, Georgia, all of them, they're so inconsistent, vulnerable. They all choke. It's just inexcusable. And if there's no way Bama should be allowed to make the college football playoff with what they've done on the field this year.
Okay.
I just don't see it. If
Tennessee beats Vandy, they're in. 10-2, win over Alabama. Yeah, I mean, okay, that's a good win. They beat now what is a rising Florida team, and they would beat a Vandy team that's going to be 6-6, which for Vandy is like
Remarkable.
10-2.
Yeah.
And Notre Dame's in. They're in and they're going to host. They're first of all, like, even if they did lose to USC this week, I think they wind up in, but they're not going to lose to USC this week.
No, they're not.
So, Penn State's in. Penn State's in. Like
I can't wait to watch them go one and done.
Yeah. They're probably going to host,
Yeah.
So, and then Texas, like we said, is in. Georgia, I think
Georgia's going to get in.
Georgia's going to get in even if they lose to A&M. Even if they lose to A&M. Now, if they lose to Georgia Tech and then lose to A&M, then that's another thing. Like,
yeah.
I have a top 5 tomorrow where I brought up the A&M scenario. Well, I probably should do an addendum where, like, the Georgia scenario, I mean, it's not unrealistic for Georgia Tech to haul off and beat them. They've already beaten one.
Especially the way they played
team
against UMass, pushed them in the first half. Like, come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kidding me?
Yeah. So, Miami and SMU, the winner of that's getting in, the loser's out.
Which I don't like.
I don't like it either. Like,
stupid.
Here's the thing. If you're going to, if Alabama, who's 13th in the AP, but if they're going to be 12th, if they're going to be in this, like, why should one of those teams not push them out?
Both of them need to be. I think there's no reason that Miami and SMU shouldn't be in.
Yeah.
Honestly, because that's just dumb. Especially if somebody's going to get screwed like that for these SEC teams. But I think both of I know Miami's been pushed. I know they've got a loss or whatever. But like pound for pound, this is the best season they've put together in a while. They're clearly the first or second best team in the ACC, and they're going to the championship game. Like, yeah, they deserve to be in this.
No, I'm with you. So,
and they have a star quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it all, Garrett. I'm with you, and this is where I get mad with the committee because, and look, their job is hard. Mm-hmm. But if the Big 12 winner is 11-2, they're going to be in. But right now, they get a scenario where, the 4 highest ranked conference champions will be the Big 10 winner, the SEC winner, the ACC winner, and Boise State. So that means the Big 12 is on the outside looking in as it stands right now if these rankings are the same. And I just can't put, and I get putting it there this week, and if it happens next week, it's egregious. But if we get to the Big 12 championship weekend in 2 weeks,
right,
and you have an 11-2 team sitting there, or a 10-3 team, if there's a 10-3 team sitting there, and they win the conference, I mean, maybe they don't get the bye, that's fine, but they should be in the thing.
I mean,
like saying they're not one of the best conferences and leaving it out because of parity, that's, I think, where people get nervous with the Big 12. But right now, based on what the AP thinks of them and the coaches, the coaches think less of them by a couple spots than the AP does. And, what the Big 12 needs is for one of these 2-loss teams, whoever's like, if it's Arizona State and BYU, I would if it's Arizona State and Iowa State, if they win this week, if they both win this week, that's who the title game is.
Right.
That's the simplest scenario. At 3:00, we will dive into all the other scenarios, of which there are legion. A ton of scenarios. Baylor and Texas Tech could wind up playing each other in the championship game in one of them.
That would take a lot.
Especially Texas Tech, whose defense gave up 48 points to the mighty Cowpokes.
That is pathetic on so many levels. So many concerns.
The most depressing season in Oklahoma State recent history, by far, could end with them going 0-9, right?
Yeah.
Losing 9 games in a row, not winning a Big 12 game. And likely will because they play Colorado.
Yeah.
who has a lot to play for.
Yeah, who's pissed.
Yeah. I mean, they did get their dicks knocked in the dirt.
They did.
By Kansas a little bit.
A little bit. Kansas is hot, man.
Let me say this though, Kansas. I was scared for them after that dude cheap shotted Shadur. And that was a cheap shot.
That was a dirty hit.
And you know in my house where my allegiances were that day.
Yeah.
But
no, you can't have that.
Look, I know, first of all, but my thought was like, look, if you're going to do that to a guy, you better make sure he's not coming back in the game. Uh-huh. And especially if it's that guy who really...
You're going to take it personal.
Yeah. I look at it like I love the show Cobra Kai. I love it. Mm-hmm. We've got the final episodes are coming soon. I don't know when exactly, but I finished this like next batch of the last season. And the one thing it reminds me, like the one thing I think of when I think of like Colorado is they're very much like Cobra Kai, where like you bet like if you hit, you better not miss. Because like there's gonna be another little a-hole kid that like dad left him, that John Kreese is gonna recruit, that has no problem breaking your leg, you know, like all that. Like that's just how it's gonna be. Like they have just no problem with that. And I cannot not like say enough how when that happened, Amanda and I were watching the game, and I was like, "Ooh, man, that was a cheap shot." She goes, "Yeah, I mean, was it?" I was like, "Yeah, you know, real cheap shot." Like it was even the ball was long gone, went right for his legs. Like that's a cheap shot
too.
And then she's like, because he was like, again, he was a little bit shaken up, but you know, again, you're gonna try to take a guy to the game, you better like. And I'm not condoning this.
No.
At all. I'm not condoning it at all. It was a cheap shot. It was ridiculous. The fact that there was no call on it was ridiculous. Yeah. The fact that the guy wasn't ejected was ridiculous because it was absolutely a cheap shot. But I'm just saying that when you do those things, you got to make them count. Yeah. And you cannot, like, you know, it's like Lex Luthor and Superman. Like, we got him. No, you didn't.
No, you did not.
You didn't get him. You didn't. You might have slowed him down for a minute, but he's going to go to the Fortress of Solitude, and then he's going to come back, and then they're really in trouble. Like, that's, you know, they're going to figure out what your little, you know, plan is. And he's going to spin the earth around or whatever, and everything's going to be different. But, yeah, Kansas is really hot right now. Baylor is also, they won the game. They didn't, you know, they didn't get style points in that win over Houston.
I didn't expect it though. I feel like that game turned out.
That's how Houston makes teams play there.
Yeah, they rely on your defense, make it ugly. Right. I think they did a good job of making Sawyer Robertson super uncomfortable and forcing them into the multiple turnovers he had. I think taking away Baylor's rushing attack and making them kind of re-identify their offense on the fly a little bit was impressive by Houston. But Baylor took care of business the way they needed to, and it was cool to see them keep rolling, man. What they've been able to do in that turnaround is really impressive.
Yeah. Dustin Archambault, I was going to save it for the main show today. I've never seen a 6-5 OU storm the field. They acted like a little brother in a long-time rivalry that finally won in a decade. Sooner fans, LOL. Look, I give them credit, and you'll see it today, like on the top 5. Gaylord Family Stadium showed up. But, yeah, shouldn't have rushed. Like, Oklahoma doesn't rush the field.
That kind of goes back into the trend.
I don't care how crappy the year has been. Oklahoma doesn't rush the field.
No.
Blue Bloods don't rush the field.
We're at a different time, man. Like, I'm with you. Like, that was up there. Like, at first I didn't have a problem with it, but the more I thought about it was like, okay, you're an established brand who's supposed to be here. Yeah, like, act like you own it. And here's another thing with this. That I think the Oklahoma fans kind of missed the delivery. I heard a lot of SEC. Like, bro, you're in the SEC, so that doesn't count anymore as saying SEC when you beat an SEC team.
Yeah, they're new to all this being mediocre.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like, look, and if you like, it's like they accepted the mediocrity as opposed to say like, look, eventually this leg's gonna heal. Like that's, like this is going to heal. That's where, you're Oklahoma. You have like the second most banners or third most.
They're up there.
They're up there. You're up there. Okay. Barry Switzer, Bob Stoops. Like you guys have, the coach before Barry Switzer, Bud Wilkinson. Like you guys have had elite coaches. You've had Heisman, like you could have a guy lose a Heisman Trophy and like, just give him one of the others.
You have more than
Yeah, I mean, so your history in Alabama, like of any school, your history and Alabama history are as close as anybody can be to Alabama. So my attitude as a fan at Oklahoma would have been, and I know that the students of this era don't get it, be like, yeah, son, even when we're down, you're at Gaylord Family Stadium.
Yeah.
You're in Norman, Oklahoma. Don't bring that Tuscaloosa crap up into here. Like,
I think it's also funny because like this is a divide. Like traditionally, Alabama doesn't travel. Now you see them travel into these environments they're not used to, and it's a little humbling experience for them.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is like, so Alabama can go into Starkville and be intimidating.
Right.
They can go into College Station and be intimidating, although they've lost they've lost there. But they can go in there and be intimidating. I don't think they're really all that intimidating in Tennessee anymore. I think that's been clipped.
The past couple of years.
The last couple of years that's been clipped. They can go into places and be intimidating. The thing is, and this is where Oklahoma missed, like nobody intimidates Oklahoma at home. Mm-hmm. Like the fans who have been there, like the longtime fans, no, they're not intimidated. Like you should go. Like none of you will get to do this, but go. Like maybe one day I'll get to go back and I'll set up a camera from over the coach's shoulder.
Right.
When they lose a game at home. And I'll tell this story. So Baylor beat Oklahoma there in 14. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 14. And beat him really bad. Mm-hmm. Really, really bad. And I went to Smokey and I said, hey, listen, small little area here for us. Would you mind if he's like, no, I know what you want to do.
Right.
Because I love Angry Bob Stoops.
Oh, yeah.
So I went in because I wanted to watch Bob Stoops and explain how does Baylor come in here, not win the game, winning games is that's going to happen from time to time, but absolutely dismantle you. I wanted to hear those things. And the media there, and I should have known it because after the RG3 game, they asked a similar question where it's what's going on? We're getting beat. That's what happened in the fourth quarter. We're getting beat. It's a good team. You guys won the Heisman Trophy. What are you talking about? And then he was like, guys, they won the Big 12 the last 2 years. Had a Heisman Trophy the year before that. I mean, what do you want? I mean, you think this team's just making things up as they go along? I mean, that's a good team. It's going to win the Big 12 again. He couldn't believe that the media
weren't paying attention.
Yeah. But there was a lot of media there that had just become accustomed to they win here.
Right.
There's no excuse for not winning here. How can anybody be better when they come in here? And so that sentiment still exists. It's just this year, and I guess a little bit last year, even though they went 9-3 last year. Yeah. Even a little bit last year was maybe shaken a little bit because they're not. But they're not king dingling right now. But
I also think how much of that in the storm of the field in that situation was. How often has Oklahoma had big brands? All right, for instance, the Big 12 doesn't have a brand, right? Oklahoma, Texas were their brands for so long. They always play Texas in a mutual field. How often did they have a big brand go into Norman where they were able to get a win to have that? That I'm kind of trying to see through here and figure things out. Maybe that was it. You have Alabama, this big brand, the Mecca that's been running the league for the past 20 years. Maybe that's kind of it. But outside of that, I still can't think of why you would do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but I mean, you can't Oklahoma doesn't, I'm telling you, And look, I'm in your corner here, Oklahoma. Like, I get the enthusiasm for that and beating Alabama, but you're Oklahoma. You'll storm the field.
Yeah.
You just go, okay, yeah. We're new in your league. I get it. It's your league. I get it. But you're 0-1 here as conference foes. And just know that when you come back around in like 4 years, we feel like you're going to be 0-2. That's how we feel. We don't know what's going to happen, but we feel that that's going to be the case. But I don't know, like just yeah. So Cam is bragging that half of Bob Stoops' losses were to Texas Tech, and that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. They were. But again, Oklahoma should never storm the field. Ever, ever, ever.
No.
I didn't like it when FSU did. I get it. Baylor should storm the field.
Mm-hmm.
Teams without multiple national championships and Heisman trophies.
Have at it.
Have at it. If you have done this many, many times, to me, don't. And look, I just did a story on KWTX about storming the field. I'm not going to be the old curmudgeon about it, but I just think that, like, I appreciate the super sarcasm and pettiness in the, like, oh, no, it wasn't worth doing it.
Yeah.
It was nice. This is lovely, but we've had better meals,
Like I know it was, and we'll probably get into this at some point, but like Arizona State and them storming the field, and that made sense in that moment, the biggest game and all of that. That was a shit show at the end. But
it was absolutely. Oh man. Okay. Well, I want to talk about that game and that game specifically when we come back. But yeah, I mean, let's not pretend, right? That there's not different rules. I just think that's how I would like it. But I understand this is a generational thing. People see things online and like, oh, I want to storm the field.
Right.
All right, go ahead and do it. Again, you'll know when you're older that it's.
My thing is like, I don't want to be stuck out there. Like it's stuck at like midfield and have to pee or something. Like, like I always think of I'm just not doing it.
No, I think like the biggest insult is like, I don't think of you at all. Mm-hmm. Like, oh no, I just don't think about you at all.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. Like, okay, yes, we won. I'm very excited about this, but
on to the next.
I'm gonna go home and pour myself a nice, expensive scotch and celebrate. Am I gonna rip it up like this is the first time anything good's ever happened to me? No. It's not VE day. Like I'm just gonna go and I'm gonna relax. We're not making out in Times Square. Mm-hmm. No, it's fine. So. Yeah, Clint Moses says FSU won't have to. Like, people are talking shit about FSU. Okay, I get it. We suck ass.
Yeah, y'all do.
Suck ass. Talk all the shit you want, but I will bring up the fact that most of you who are, like, you know who's not? You, LSU fan, like, Oregon fan, like, none, like, even Oregon, like, but Oregon State fans and Texas Tech fans seemed like a little superior right now. And listen, enjoy it. Oregon State, you just had a huge win. Beat Wazoo. Congratulations. But I'm just going to tell you the dirty, awful things you would do. You would do them and put them on the internet to have one of what FSU has. Mm-hmm. One has a trophy, one national championship. Dirty, awful things you put on the internet. And say, yes, I did this for the team. Yep. And you wouldn't even be ashamed of it. But it's a shameful thing you would do. It's a shameful thing. Okay, look, we're taking crap because of that idiot didn't eat the dog shit out of the red Solo Cup. Uh-huh. How many fan bases, if you told them that would work, that for sure works, the first, like, if you had a race in every fan base, if there was some kind of wizard, right? There's a wizard out there, and he says, listen, we've got 50 red Solo Cups full of dog shit. The first team in this race of teams who have never won a national title to eat the dog shit will win the title this year. There would be 50 people in line just scarfing it down.
God, that's where we've come from to. Florida State is
I'm
dog
not lying.
shit.
It's true. It's true. I mean, keep bringing up. FSU's 2-9. Their best win is against Cal, who's also not good. Their second best win, and their second win is against maybe the worst football team I've ever seen in my life. Charleston Southern is maybe the worst football team I've ever seen in my life. They were so bad.
Did your friend's kid at least have a good time?
What?
Did your friend's kid at least have a good time?
He had a blast.
Right, good deal. That's all that matters.
I've got videos of him waving and high-fiving cheerleaders, and Mike Norvell, he got to high-five Mike Norvell.
So there's some good there.
Yeah, no, he's hooked. He's hooked. I talked to him this morning, as a matter of fact. I talked to the kids, like, yeah, I had a blast. That's what he said. Did you have a good time? Yeah, it's fun. You know, like 7-year-olds are, but yeah, no. So, yeah. Oh, Kim, you weren't. Kim, I apologize.
What is that?
Kim, I thought you were talking trash. Oh. You were not. I apologize.
You didn't say Kim specific. You said Clint specific, but Texas Tech fans.
Yeah, it was him though. It was him that brought it up. They're 2-9. He said the question he asked, and look, it's in text, so it's hard to understand.
Okay.
He said what's FSU's record? I haven't been paying attention. I thought that was a dig.
Oh,
I thought that was a dig.
The timing was just.
Yeah, the timing wasn't good, Kim. Kim, you and I are cool. Don't worry about it. So, again, but yeah, talk like if your school again hasn't won one, talk on the mess you want this year. Get it in, because we'll win one again one day. I know we will. I just don't know when it'll be.
I'm right there with you at this point. LSU's
here's Garrett. I'm gonna put you at ease. You, me, and Craig. I can tell all three of us. Because the only thing that makes the cities that the schools are in go is that football team.
Yes.
I'll even say it for Nebraska. Nebraska will. For the teams of the people in this room. Emory, maybe not so much, but he's on the other side of this. But I'll tell you this right now. Nebraska, Oklahoma, FSU, and LSU will win a national title again someday.
God, I hope so.
It will happen. Because, again, the stakes are too high for them not to.
Yeah. No, it's different.
And here's the thing.
It's different.
Nothing would ever really change all that much if they didn't. The flow of time, the world won't. But because they've done it more than once, now there's
a bar and an expectation.
You have to have that because now you have built up so much stuff, economically around the fact that you're going to have big time games here. Mm-hmm. You need to make sure that when the other team comes to town that all your hotels are sold out. Like those kind of things. Or that your hotels are sold out when you're playing home games because the alumni are flooding in. That's important to Tallahassee, to Lincoln, to Norman / Oklahoma City. Not so much Oklahoma City, but to Norman and to Baton Rouge. Those things are big. So, but yeah, I really do. I think the reason I think Nebraska will is there's just so much money there. Eventually they'll figure it out,
man.
Yeah.
I also think
here's the thing.
Big Ten,
I know that the Cowboys will one day win another Super Bowl. You know how I know that? Because no one lives forever. So
nice win over the weekend, by the way.
Oh, we'll talk about that at the end of the show. Mm-hmm. That was the stupidest game ever.
Pretty much.
Nothing statistically in that game should have made sense. No. If I gave you what Washington did versus what Dallas did, you'd have been like, oh, well, Washington won this game 41-10, right?
Should have.
Yeah. But, yeah, so, no. No. Clint Moses, I get you. Look, you're Oregon State. You're a hater. No, we don't.
Go ahead, Clint. I respect it.
Go ahead. I get it. Be a hater all you want. Again, listen, you guys punished us enough, Clint. We called up DJU, and no one from that school called up and said, don't do that.
Damn. They got a better baseball program
again,
now, too.
You got me.
Mm-hmm.
You've done far more damage with DJU than your words ever can.
How many baseball natties does Oregon State have?
Yeah, see, they've got those. We don't have those, right? Yep. Do they?
No.
Yeah, they got one.
Yeah.
They got one. They should have had one, and they had the diddler pitcher.
They did have the diddler.
They had the diddler pitcher. One. That was unfortunate. So, for everyone involved there. So, Conundrum. FSU can sue the Pac-2 over DJU. I wish we could.
They should.
I wish we could.
They should.
Look, Clemson and Florida State could jump together and just sue DJU.
I think Clemson don't want no part of that. They ended up on the good end.
They like to pretend like he was never
They're
there.
just happy with it.
Yeah. The evidence that he was there is not as tragic as it was at FSU.
No, not at all.
Yeah, absolutely. When we come back, Arizona State and BYU and why the referees need to be smarter. Whew. I'm putting that on the refs.
They've got to,
I'm
dude.
putting that on the refs.
There was some bad officiating over the weekend.
But that particular thing, that's the refs,
Stupid.
right?
Yes.
You know what's going to happen.
Okay. Hang on.
You
we'll
know,
come back.
like, here's the thing.
You know what's happening.
You're telling me that drunk Arizona State kids are responsible?
Like, they were still coming out of the stands as they're trying to push them off.
They're not like, okay, I'm not excusing the stupidity of Arizona State students. Not excusing that at all. What I am going to condemn is there's 8 guys there on the field that are not drunk Arizona State students.
Yeah.
They should have prepared for the fact that there were a lot of drunk Arizona State students there. They did not do that, and that's why we got the situation that we did. This is the triple option. We're back after this.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome back, Paul Catalina and Garrett Ross. Arizona State and BYU, Garrett. Let's get into
Phenomenal
it.
game.
Phenomenal game. BYU does what they do, and they fell down, but they got back up and almost like, heck, the Hail Mary got caught.
Yeah.
Chase Roberts caught it. Right down there at the 3-yard line, 2-3-yard line. Arizona State did not lose. That would have been
horrible.
It would have been worse than Guy Morris.
Ooh. You talking about the
At
LSU
Kentucky,
guy?
yeah.
Yeah.
Brian
Yeah.
Randall, right?
Yeah.
Brian Randall?
Yeah.
Was it Brian Randall?
I don't remember if it was Brian
Randall.
I'd have to look at that.
Yeah, I think the quarterback's last name was Randall. I can't remember his first name because there's a Randall that also played at Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
Maybe it was Bryce Randall that was at Virginia Tech. I can't remember. But that one, that's the most embarrassing one because he was getting a Gatorade dumped on him in the moment that LSU was racing in the end zone for the dub.
Good time.
But look, Arizona State, there was no way to know that the game was still going to be going on. Now, also, Kenny Dillingham.
The clock management
was
suspect as hell.
Suspect. I get, but here's the thing. Here's what he was trying to avoid.
I know what he was trying to, yeah.
He was trying to avoid being Baylor versus UNLV.
Yep.
He probably should have just scored. And then
He should have.
But it's such a tricky situation. If you can run it out, you can run it out. And so it almost worked, right? It almost worked. But the bad idea with it was I would rather, if you're going to maybe perchance give him the ball back with 1 second left, I'd rather give him the ball back with 5 seconds left and it just be at the 10-yard line.
Either that or in that, I know it's still a risk, but pooch it. Have Sam Levitt pooch kick it and then go from there. Because that was the concern too, was is he going to get it and actually punt it away? You even had that delay game right there.
I wouldn't have had anybody pooch anything.
You wouldn't?
I would have put the actual, they're at the 49-yard line.
Just boot
I would have had the punter go and like, here's your thing. I want you to kick this as high and far as you can.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter because it's the same thing. You're just throwing that, like, at least then they're going to get the ball at the 20.
Right.
You know, so there's where I Kenny Dillingham and I diverge in the wood as far as that strategy goes. Because I get what he was trying to do, but they lost way too many yards on
they did.
running back around. So there were better ways to do it. But when the ball, lands out of bounds and the official said the game is over, right? Didn't he say that? Like, I'm not imagining that.
I don't remember if they said the game was over. I just know the clock went down. Everything looked like it was over.
So then, like, they buzzed down, but there needed to be some preparation for that.
Don't buzz down in that situation.
Or, like, and look, even if they were right, I'm not saying don't buzz down, but if you know that there's a chance that this could happen, you need to spend, like, a lot, like, the PA announcers, like, no one, the officials, nobody took into account, hey, when Arizona State wins this game and puts themselves in position to win a conference title, potentially something they have not done in a very long time, and all they got to do is beat their rival, who is not very good.
Not very good at all.
Next week, like, they're going to be fired up. This is a huge win for them. These kids are coming.
Mm-hmm.
These kids are coming. And then you got to spend 20 minutes, basically putting them all on the sideline.
Yep. You
to run one play. Yeah. It's not like I totally understand Kenny Dillingham ripping the officials.
Yeah.
I totally understand him doing it. Not because, like, maybe they did get the call right. They never really even showed.
Well, it looked like the ball did go out of bounds with.
Yeah, but
at the same time,
it's not where the ball goes out of bounds. It's where it hits the ground.
Well, it hit in the damn bleachers. Yeah.
Yeah. So did it hit in the bleachers with 1 second left? We never saw. And now, if they want, like, they didn't call intentional grounding, so they can't go back and call it. Right? You can't go back and call intentional grounding?
I don't think you can.
Maybe you can review. Maybe it can be reviewed whether they were in the tackle box or not. I don't know. But they didn't call intentional grounding. They didn't call that.
No, it was just.
So either way, however the rule does, and I'm getting confused because this whole situation was confusing. But if you remember when Colt McCoy did it and Nebraska lost to Texas in the Big 12 title game, that's a weird thing to say now.
Yeah.
But
very weird.
Colt McCoy threw the ball out of bounds, and the clock stopped because it landed on the sideline with 1 second left. So there's to me, there's no way that landed in this. Sam Levitt threw as far as he could. It landed in the stands. Like, how could they tell where it was? I don't know. They said there was 1 second left, so there's 1 second left. But I think that was a.
I would have just let it go, honestly. And I know that BYU technically would have had the opportunity and everything, but to me,
how is it so? How was that conclusive compared to all the other things that aren't to flip the call?
That's a good.
That was my question because they didn't
had
really
to throw the call on the field.
They didn't really show it on TV.
No.
There's basically they had the angle of there's the ball going out of bounds, but they never really, because you know what? There's no cameras in the place it hit. So nobody was. So yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it. Maybe somebody in the chat can explain it to me. So Paxton said, I tried to get my picks in at 10:30 Saturday morning. It was already locked, so I lost every game.
I did mine and probably lost almost all of them, Paxton. So
I went 8-2.
I didn't even want to look because I knew how bad.
I'm 1 game ahead of Craig. So.
I've gotten emotional the past couple of weeks. LSU just screwed my head up, so I'm just picking stupid stuff now.
Yeah, the games I lost were Wazoo. Most people lost Wazoo, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you. Hold on. I will tell you. We need to count them out. But anyway, we're done with the Arizona State topic. We'll take we'll talk about Washington, Dallas here in a second because it was so weird. So I missed Colorado and I missed Wazoo. So hold on, let's see. Our winner, David Matthews, who's been very good at this thing.
He's been consistent.
He only missed Wazoo. He picked Kansas very wisely. Hold on. Okay, Kyle Visser, congratulations. You picked the Beavs. One person.
Damn.
On this whole list picked the Beavs. 97% of people picked Wazoo.
I don't think that's a real shocker. I mean, like,
no, but
Oregon State's kind of been lost in the mix. You kind of forget about them.
Yeah. 79 Ohio State, 79 ASU, 76 Colorado, 88 Penn State, 59% Louisville, which that game was a little bit better, 91% Baylor. Let's see. 97%. Only 3 people picked Houston, only one person. 5 people picked Army, 5 people picked Vandy, 8 people picked Duke, 7 BYU, and 7 Indiana. The rest were all double digits. So
I was one of the ones that picked Vandy.
Yeah, you've let your emotions get the better
I
of
have.
you. So, but yeah, so it's Garrett, you were 1, 2, 3,
Probably
4,
awful.
and 6.
Balling. Yeah.
4 and
Good
6.
times.
So, yeah. Do your picks before then, people.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying. But yeah, Craig and I were both 8 and 2. We both had the exact same picks. This week, Smokey. I'm still scrolling. Smokey was 7 and 3 because he picked Pitt.
Okay. And Holstein got hurt, didn't he? Like, he was game time decision, comes in, and then he gets hurt. It's like, yeah.
I mean, I
Bad
wasn't
business for him.
I wasn't. I was going to pick Louisville anyway. I just think they're a better team, top to bottom. But yeah. So, but yeah. David Matthews wins on the tiebreaker. Brian Burt and Chad Gullidge were both 9 and 1, but lost on the tiebreaker. So. Chad had way too many points scored in the Baylor-Houston game. He had 65.
Damn, he's want to see Sly Robertson cook.
Yeah. So, and anyway, but yeah, David Matthews, 59 for Ohio State. I think that's almost pretty much right on. It was 40, yeah. So, yeah, it was pretty close on that one. So, all right, let's Flight on 90 says, should have listened to me about Colorado Circus. I told you, Paul. Yeah. I just thought that Kansas was going to come back down to earth, but
they're like on a mission right now to ruin everybody you see.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to pick them this week.
They're
I've been thinking about that. I think I'm going to take them this week against Baylor. There's something about Jalen Daniels, man, like it's vintage Jalen Daniels.
Well, and look,
and his
Devin,
spin moves
it wasn't even like
ridiculous.
Jalen didn't have to do much because Devin
Neal
Neal
was, it was a problem.
Jeez. They had no answer for him.
No.
And yeah, that was wild. Okay, so I want to spend the last few minutes before we get to Peyton here talking about the end of the Washington-Dallas game. The first 3 quarters were as big of a donkey turd of a game as I think I've ever watched.
Stupid, yeah.
It was 10-9.
Yeah.
It was awful. Awful.
Yeah.
But the fact that it was 10-9 was stupid because Brandon Aubrey missed a field goal. He got a field goal blocked, and the Cowboys got a punt block.
Yeah.
And then Washington responded by missing field goals and extra points, 2 extra points and a field goal, as a matter of fact.
Mm-hmm.
And then the end of that game, the Cowboys get the lead. Like Smokey told me, he's like, this is how they play against the Cowboys. The Cowboys
really
just kind of own it, always is. And then I was like, yeah, well, you're right. When you're right, you're right. Literally, when I text that to him, Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin, 86 yards. And again, I've seen the Cowboys do that exact thing before, too. If you remember Tyreek Hill, like not a Hail Mary, just a pass and then just get run past.
Yep.
I saw that happen. That's the second time that's happened to them. Terry McLaurin just went 87 yards or whatever it was to the house on that. And Then they come out. They should have gone for 2 and just ended it because the Cowboys were on the mat.
Yep.
And then you have the long snapper short hops it. That was all kind of bad.
It was.
All kind of bad. And they lose. And then, look, Daniels got to throw one more pass
close.
in that. Yeah.
So close.
Yeah.
And Brian Robertson gets hurt. It was so frustrating, dude. Like that was one where Washington has been cooking all year. You thought that the luck was going to come back with the McLaurin, that hiccup, and then all of a sudden, man, Dallas just found a way. This is the most frustrating thing in the world. You kind of like, I was so nervous that would happen. Like I thought Dan Quinn would just have a way to kind of work this offense. Mm-hmm. I didn't really think that Cooper Rush could do anything. And then, of course, Dallas would find a way to go up there and spoil everything. It's so annoying losing to them.
Here's the thing. I'm mad that the Cowboys won it.
You should be.
Because
for pick-wise, draft-wise.
Look, they don't need a quarterback.
No.
They've got Dak. Well, I mean, we can have that debate.
He's better than most quarterbacks in the league.
Yes. He's good enough to where they've got him locked into this contract. They're not drafting a quarterback in the first round. So if you have a top 5 pick, which right now they're like 11th, mm-hmm. which they can maybe still at 11 get Ashton Genty, but the better he plays, the more scared I get that that's not going to happen. They need to be in that I'm desperate for Shadur Sanders, Cam Ward area, mm-hmm. and I'm going to trade up and make a bad decision with my picks so that they can trade back, still draft Ashton Genty, and then load up with picks for this year and next year.
Right.
And move on. They need to be 1, 2, or 3. Need to be.
Mm-hmm.
And they haul off and go and beat Washington. And they're probably going to go and
They're going to beat the Giants.
They're going to beat the sorry-ass Giants. And then here they're going to be picking. Look, here's the thing about the Cowboys. They don't have the goddamn decency to be shitty enough or awesome enough. So either be Super Bowl champions or be nothing, but stop being in between.
That's all they know, Paul.
That's all they know.
That's all they know.
Just be the right amount of shitty or the right amount of awesome. They're neither.
Never.
It's maddening. Even when it looks like they're going to be crappy, they're crappy, but they're not as crappy as the crappiest crappy when they need to be the crappiest crappy.
Yep.
And then when they're good, they look good, but they're not as good as the really, really good. I'm going to have an aneurysm.
You might.
This is insane. Just.
And this is after a win?
Yeah. I feel like Ron Swanson, frozen yogurt. Be ice cream or be nothing. Like, that's how I feel. That's what they need to be. Be ice cream or be nothing. As my rants go, that one's pretty epic.
That was pretty up there.
Pretty epic. So, and I'm not like, I don't like the bad seasons, mm-hmm. but this team needs a couple of gimmies in the draft. Mm-hmm. They need some gimmies.
I just need them to keep messing it up.
Here's the thing. When they pick 12th, like as long as they're 12th and above, they usually nail it. Mm-hmm. Anytime you're below 12th, anytime they're in the 20s, it's like white knuckle time.
Yep.
It's white knuckle time. For sure. Ugh. Gosh. Anyway, that's going to do it for this show. We've got Pat Thomas, former A&M cornerback on today. We've got Ari Temkin. We've got Phil Bennett. We've got the top 5. We've got a lot of playoff scenarios to talk about. This is the Triple Option. See you on 365 Sports an Hour. Here is Peyton Soicher of Rankings Right Now.
Everyone, Chief Rankings Officer Peyton Soicher here on the Triple Option with Paul Catalina. We had one of the craziest weekends we've seen with college football, especially when it came to the SEC. There were 2 major losses with Alabama and Ole Miss going into the weekend that are going to shake up the rankings. At rankingsrightnow.com, we have a full website dedicated to machine learning algorithms predicting the rankings of the College Football Selection Committee. Let's look at where the rankings are on www.rankingsrightnow.com to have some insights into where the selection committee might be evaluating these different rankings. So if we go ahead and start off on www.rankingsrightnow.com, you can go to the what if simulation tool. You can look at the main website. Everything is free for all users. Now, one thing that we really need to start to focus in on is where are the SEC teams starting to put themselves after the big loss from Alabama and Ole Miss. One thing to take note, according to the rankings algorithm, Alabama and Ole Miss are going to move down to number 12 and number 13 in the rankings. This is extremely important because how do you view Alabama and Ole Miss based off where Tennessee and Georgia were, right? Georgia and Tennessee played two absolute nobodies going into the weekend. We didn't learn anything from them. But with Alabama and Ole Miss, we also learned that Alabama could not be a very, very pathetic OU team this year. And Ole Miss has just been on this roller coaster of up and down struggles. So, having Alabama and Ole Miss drop to 12 and 13, that is right on that edge. So does a 3-loss Alabama team still have a punching chance for being in the College Football Selection Committee, right? Now, how does Georgia and Tennessee not move up with their wins? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at the different Week 13 games that we saw over the weekend. Tennessee beat UTEP 56-0. They were doing that all year to really low-ranked teams at the beginning of the season. Teams that should not be on the same field as Tennessee, right? You don't really learn anything from there. Same thing with Georgia. Georgia played UMass and gave up 3 touchdowns. So even putting up 60, for a little bit there, people were like, why is UMass even semi-competitive in this game? So if you see where Georgia and Tennessee are, they're staying in the rankings according to the algorithm, right? Why is that? Well, Boise State and SMU are projected to move up in the rankings and pass both of them. Well, who did they play this weekend? Let's look at SMU. SMU had a very convincing win over Virginia, right? Is Virginia the best team in college football? No. Are they in the middle of the pack? Kind of, right? That's where things get really interesting, is a team on the road beating an average football team and beating them handily. Does that really signify anything to the selection committee that this is a legitimate team and they just keep on winning? Their only loss was early in the year to BYU. They just keep on rolling. Well, who else do we need to look at? Boise State. Boise State's a tricky one. Boise State played terrible against a very weak Wyoming team. They win 17-13. I think a lot of people, including myself, would think, oh, there's no chance that they're going to move up in the rankings. That's a very weak win, right? It's a road win, though, and it's another win, right? So when you are evaluating two different teams, right? Or in this case, 4, 5, 6 different teams, right? You have to take into account, wins on the road, who they're playing when they played them, right? Georgia and Tennessee both played two teams that are very well known to not be competitive, right? Bottom 5 teams in the entire country according to rankings right now, right? So if you have those two teams playing essentially a bye week, and then you have Boise State and SMU both with road wins, although not pretty except for SMU, that is why Boise State and SMU, according to the algorithm, are projected to move up. Then, last thing that we need to start looking at. This Clemson and South Carolina game is about to be enormous for rankings implications. If South Carolina, who is projected to be number 15 after this weekend, if they can beat Clemson, you are looking at a South Carolina team that is most likely going to make a legitimate chance for that top 12 rankings and possibly jump teams like Alabama and Ole Miss. South Carolina's hot as of lately. Alabama and Ole Miss are not. So this is where we are sitting for the current SEC playoff scenario. There's also one other scenario that needs to be discussed that I just remembered. Texas A&M, after their loss in overtime against Auburn, is projected to drop down to number 2021. They play Texas this week. If they beat Texas, they are in the SEC championship game against Georgia. If they beat Georgia, that is going to be a mess of a scenario for the selection committee. Actually, they get an actual bye into the playoffs. So Texas A&M, even at 20, if they win out, they're in the playoff. So these next two games, Texas A&M and Texas, really are probably the most important game that they're going to play this entire year. So that's where we are with the rankings for the SEC. So much fun. A lot of different things that are all going along the playoff committee. Everything needs to be evaluated right now. Things are getting more and more tight as we enter the last regular season weekend. The SEC is just bombing each other right now. Everything is so much fun. Everything is so important to try and really evaluate going into the rankings for this final stretch of the season. I am Chief Rankings Officer Peyton Soisher on the Triple Option with Paul Catalina.